Hello, Americans, and as modern nations, A1 through Z, however many, as the human species, science of relativity, and as relativity, science. See, the fact that science can use theory, they've been offensively consolidating roles with theories used offensively as experts used in identity of the ground locations defended, offensively defending theories and names treatments that are in collusion with and as premises treatments that can't defend themselves and not maintain self-value collusion with that which is actually recorded, most furthering and having furthered the overt criminal enterprises and the roles with the branches of government, through counters in collusion as identities in collusion. Their motivations are also how they were victims of this method with liars, where there's, where they're having a sustained method connected between campuses for them, already manifest with the locations next to the campuses, already manifest with the locations next to the places involved with database, data reception, identity reception, instances, reaction, cataloging. They're setting that's in collusion with where and how, for example, both political parties are the complete possession or originally and still, of what our founding parents wanted and needed us through correlation/discorrelation to speak about. They didn't have free speech. They wanted that demonstrated. People that are forcing a quality of fact-keeping nature, it's A or B. In other words, every modern nation has locations, areas, and states already having self-blame. What really caused negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures to all locations, no matter how wealthy. A through Z states, A through Z countries. We're in a semi-ancient trap that tactically that made roles reacting to nature demonstrating negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures because of what it furthered. Where and how they discovered the phenomenon of how locations and areas, living voices as our human science, could become criminal insidiousness natures of positive and negative treatments and of finite, the order of the finite treatments, the value of that treatment, sequence true, the order of that true. What is active, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, because there is a hyper simultaneous nature. That is evidence why and how we are engineered what is not invented, but was revealed individual, group, and species. And what it involves is the invisible but still discernible, is what causes positive or negative value nature progressions in relationship to its system of relativity. What is actually simultaneously true always, not denying exceptions and why exceptions exist and appear to exist. See, we have qualities of fact-keeping nature that are in collusion with the uses of exceptions. Everyone lies to each other. I learned this. My father did better than most with some things. In other words, for example, making me understand before I even went to school, making me value the not just love for Native American, not just understanding how Native Americans had that breaching method against them, and black people with those laws, and the government pretending it's positive anyway. but as victims also. We're forced to defend the country, but we're never be ready for it. So we have to do it before we can. That's why it was never done here and there, because it knew how to maintain complete possession and over, and in other words, complete remote usage of each identity of the ground. Positive and negative treatment, identity treatment as sophistication, and as non-sophistication, as overt criminal enterprises, as criminal insidious natures of names, things like that, all locations, and juxtaposed with private ones, juxtaposed with the branches of government individually and grouped and together. Every standing person was and is kept as a value/value progression method, member maintaining roles with methods bound by one method. But we have to have free speech to be able to demonstrate this method. So where and how it involves all victims, this thing knew that we would have to, countries A through Z, locations, areas, and states, would have to say that no, it's true. We need police, we need courts, and we need political branch. We need services people tied to them. That's positive. But they also knew that they were going to make positive and negative binary treatments that were going to be criminally foreign influenced, and roles maintained with that where they could keep all their identity of the ground locations individually grouped and together as standing criminal insidiousness natures relative to slavery and to that torture method that was that, and the torture method on top of it, sickly distinctly amongst everyone. This is a slavery method against our founding parents who had to hide their roles with the American Revolution. Had to hide their roles entertaining Sense and Sensibilities theater. That was not the Constitution unabridged, because then it would have been found out. Because the Sense and Sensibilities, using Jane Austen's phrase, the nervous system, for example, of every single person individually grouped and together, it was controlled by the laws that made and kept roles with everyone sickly, distinctly a slave, and forced to keep everyone roles with that theater of it as criminal insidiousness, as a type of theater, and as a type of positive and negative treatment style, identity. You know how positive and negative are simultaneously value to identity, because correlation is and discorrelation is. See, but we don't even have the quality of fact treatment nature afforded the people hurt by the justice systems at the time. We don't have the quality of fact treatment nature afforded the quality of the justice systems now, because the people involved with that are involved with and as family members. Again, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, killers, people involved with body dumping spots, people brought in all different kinds of ways, like uses of people calling the police and then the police having to respond. Their hierarchy, originally and still, was raised as victim predators, criminally foreign influence, differentially, constantly. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form, I'm not a criminal. They have been preventing regular citizens' speech and have been slandering us offensively, pretending to be legitimately able to speak about truth, because they've been roles preventing free speech in relationship to their methods of timing instances that people will say are true, and then they'll know other people's names, but they don't even know them. And they make instances that are simultaneously timed with the reactions of the stewards who were trained in schools to work with subjects where and how the people they have doctors of psychology and of psychiatry and of the law They have judges and prosecutors that are personally criminally foreign influenced and made to keep needing to hide live aggressions with overt criminal enterprises and with the stewards of campuses and private database relationships simultaneously, and with their family members, neighbors, everybody. At the same time, kept needing to hide live aggressions. So they all go into, so in other words, they have a bunch of ways that they cover such up. The same people countering the worst things involved with the worst statistics and issues that we hear in the news every day. The people countering them are hiding roles self-value with where and how. The interbranch family members and the intermilitary and the private simultaneously, and the intercampuses, while are involved also intra-campuses and intra-campus, each one, with a method that is vertical and horizontal database. It is a whole bunch of motivations, natures, needs, interests that were engineered real, but tactical ulterior from the one controlling, using all that to screen itself. For example, using people fighting about theory with physical delusions, with it measured how they're defending arrays of fact treatments and uses of each other's names and other people's names if they try to demonstrate. Because these are arrays of opinion natures only forcing qualities of fact treatment nature, qualities of uses of people's names that mean A or B only. And they're leaving out how that is relative to 5 identities of sequence nature. Sequence true, the order of the finite, the order of what is active, the order of what is progressive, and identities order where it has a semi-nature relationship to what is simultaneous, that is actually science of relativity. That and how and why, again, we are this human science that is offensive. So they have the humanities, plural. Then they have defenses of that as syntax illness that is also being and having been exploited on and off campus, all on and off locations. This is how they keep all self-valued roles as victim predators, and or as just hurt, trick, persuaded, shock, taken as all. Everyone rolls with, like, for example, NBC Connecticut News. Please do what's right. And fix your roles with FBI in New Haven, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with Wethersfield Police over the last months, involved with the Wethersfield town offices and their police department, where it is now and where it used to be, with forging names, with officers that confessed switching names and introducing more names, and then pretending people are making people are blaming other people and making conspiracy theories, because they're lying about what is actually, they're replacing what is actually recorded over the phone with the police with fabricated audio and video, because the police have been attaching kids and their family members to fake words with themselves, even fake, making it look like they had went to tell other people through them, because they had other people calling them that were lying to them, and they were mixing truths sometimes, and there were also people mixed, involved in the past with courts, with their family members, involved with predicate acts on all sides of the campuses in Wethersfield. Now these are also, they have the filming of parents and how they use it, and switch different articles with the same title and things like that. In other words, they lied about emails I sent. They put fake emails, and then they took quotes of what I said and retyped them from Facebook and pretended that was an email to Wethersfield parents. They hid a whole bunch of different phone calls and messages, more than 4 that were made, and confessions that were made on my answering machine regarding proven child abuser leader of the kids since. And in other words, there's still roles with more then and now. These are also policing of the schools. There are two Mendez police that non-verbally confirmed their roles of attaching me to fake audio and video with offensive evidence, racketeering, identity thefts, and frauds roles when they were kids, and wire crime roles, and falsified police reports when they were kids, and on off the Wethersfield Police Department when they're adults. Also with people on all sides of the Wethersfield High School involved intercities with predicate acts on and off the high school, coordinated on and off. There's also police forms with a domain family also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with interreligious locations, with the sensibilities of people, with the fire departments, and with my teachers, where they had conversations with me with my teachers behind my back. When I was growing up, the ones involved with tons of falsified police reports since I was a kid. Tons of instances where they have everyone speaking through other than no one knows how to say because they're all victims. They did the right thing and recorded what is actually recorded when I was a kid. Wethersfield schools recorded, confessed, and demonstrated too. They put the people in jail for trying to record this. There are more names brought into it, like a Mike Levine and a Mike Kerr. There's an Officer Jerry Miller further involved with more people with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court, pages plural, and their roles with predicate acts and cases, federal crimes and remote uses of state's attorneys, switching names, forging names, pretending to be about truth anyway, using styles like pretending they were trying to investigate if people were telling the truth or not, knowingly fabricating falsified police reports roles that are with switching officers' names with ones that weren't even present, making all kinds of exceptions to pretend to things are, and God knows what is left in the databases. Since I was a kid, they prevent writing and only they consciously presented and present exceptions to pretend other criminally through criminal foreign influences, also with delusions, but also as rules crimes predators, and also as time treatment predators and roles with torture leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context, and since also with the investigators of that, also military, also involved with the 3 spots at the end of the Burlington Pike and the spots next to them, with the ones from my town, involved with predicate acts on my street with the interbranch people that are syntax-oriented, fact treatment nature-oriented, and wire crimes and mail crimes-oriented, falsified police reports rules, identity thefts and frauds rules and acts, and then stacking and switching the officers' names. So like 5 months ago, an officer, and I keep trying to have this done in the summer so we can finish it because they have the we also need to have the one of those parents get these officers in the interbranch, because the courts forge and switch names distinctly from the police, but that's a method they do to make it so people can't talk, because they have roles with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones and with investigations of such and investigators of such and their family members. It is all kinds of ways and names tied to Central Connecticut State University recorded, forced to speak through others, and me forced to use their names, and them forced to them self-valuing that as evidence to pretend passions and emotions that dislike me, rather than following mandated law and giving me something to respond to on paper. The courts also sequence shift, because they brought this up with rape threats. They brought this up with Robert Reed, with confessions that brought up the of his ties and confirmations of other people's ties with and uses of him, also with predicate acts, with evidence perception racketeering, with various natures of police forms, and people involved with the shopping centers through time with their family members, involved also where they have people film fake arrays and make it look like they lie about what came before that. and they pretend not to understand people when they're playing these tricks and games, lying to what is parents what is actually recorded, because they have rights to do that. That they're pretending because they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. Again, delusions rot, but they're also rules, crimes, predators. Because this is having been, so they're valuing this having been. They're valuing all that is tied manifest, having needed to hide that by needing to value correlation nature's actually inherent active and progressive means. Not having a quality of fact cheap nature to any location, area, and state across the human body. Rise. So we have to know that there is complete possession of every difference. So that means nothing when we speak about what is positive or what is negative about the police, because that is invisible but still discernible. We're going by what is invisible but still discernible only one way. When we're using what is not theory too in the way as quality of fact treatment nature, and as counters to it, in collusion with it, fake sides of fact treatment nature, value treatments, identity treatments, time treatments. That's why mandated law is not being followed. That's why people from the suburbs and people from the suburban / urban and people from the overtly urban sickly, non-distinctly, distinctly, and simultaneously take collusion against anyone who tries to use quality of fact treatment nature regarding recorded, actually, abuses of each identity ground location, let alone the most forsaken. If anyone addresses it properly, grouped or individually, or all together, people go out of their way to do identity thefts / frauds types of meanness, juxtaposed with apparent other motivations, natures, and interests made up and real, not by accident. This is mass identity thefts and frauds method. So I don't know of a Debbie Gold, but I know she sought me out to record, confess, and demonstrate roles with a little girl from another class associated with Mayor. And she reportedly has, by a whole bunch of people, has a brother named Lee Gold, also involved with her father, with a whole bunch of natures of predicate acts that are fact treatment nature oriented, wire crimes oriented, child abuses oriented, elderly abuses roles with that. Everyone, differentially criminally foreign influence. Their roles with overt criminal enterprises and with federal crimes with people associated with forensics locations, including plainclothes officers. So when people try to note the collusion of those locations and their family members and their neighbors, you know, then they pretend, oh, that was just someone saying it because they were doing it for, trying to investigate, because they try to investigate undercover per them and through the news like CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. They have sources like NBC Connecticut and also Hartford Courant. Please do what's right. You guys recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with some foreign and domestic medical families, and roles with overt criminal enterprises involved with them in collusion with falsified police reports, and in the background with the investigators and just evaluating who's telling the truth and something. They use the word debunked. Oh, there they say that's debunked. They have deployed. You know, that is a word used to pretend lies about people. They have the agencies recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people I went to school with a predicate acts with my grammar school, and before that are subtle, but and uses of them are also recorded. Worse though. And see, but that's where everyone's not letting the common victimhood be demonstrated it's self-valued. For example, we have all these experts that can't defend their identities and their fact treatment, nature, quality, and afford someone to come around with correlations. They call people names. They use psychology's physical delusions when they use words like ego. They call people names. When they say narcissist, when they use words like delusions. These are people that are recorded with the courts offensively, criminally, pretending things like they want people to have faith in doctors, so they don't want people to say things because they're making things up, but they're not giving their premises, and they're not allowing demonstration of when they are giving premises, how it's exceptions created criminally to pretend, but actually in demonstration of the same thing, they're preventing and having prevented quality of fact treatment nature in relationship to how they keep lie progressions self-value, or how they keep social individually grouped and together discorrelation self-value, and correlations self-valued obfuscated increasingly by people pretending to care about who's telling the lies. In other words, they're evaluating who tells truth, who doesn't tell truth, and they're plotting together, individually grouped and together, because how they are victim predators. Everyone speaking through others, but no one following mandated law, and they have that sustained. So that's why they still have NBC, Connecticut News has these differentially fake lies about emails. Their roles with wire crime, with the fake news articles, video, and audio, and name treatments. No, identity, the ground, locations, collusion. They recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed roles with all kinds of things tied to those predicate acts that they didn't care and they don't care about. Further, tied to it, those acts were used by NBC, recorded to further child abuses with a proven principal child abusers campus. Now there are courts and prisons, stewards and their family members and their neighbors and friends of theirs, or people that were associated with programs that raised them, that are also involved on and off the state judicial branch offices and on and off the state prison offices with connected predicate acts roles and or wrongdoing roles and or natures of identity thefts and frauds, illusion positing where someone else can pretend to record things, where and how recorded they consciously use time simultaneously too fast and too slow to get over on people, where and how they've been using the weapons of states as states in collusion originally and still sicker than most people in jail. Again, jails that are recorded personally kept criminally foreign influence needed to hide the same finite, active, progressive lies, sequence shifts, identity thefts and frauds, roles with instances, for example, every time. Follow the sequence shifts, not the money. They have that naive victim reactions that said things like follow the money, counter racism, leave out the breaching method that wanted that counter, needed that counter employed for the recorded, engineered, multi-front, self-cultivated, breaching method propagated, trap that America that was entrenched before America's founders were even born, that they want us to speak about, and they want to speak through James Madison's voice. Marbury versus Madison C. All justice must satisfy all quote, real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice, unquote. That is what my father taught me. I wish my father was alive, because I'm going to teach you all now. Better than anything. About this is it. Sequence the value, sequence true. The value of the order of the finite. That means the smallest detail is not left out. That means we are a quality of fact treatment nature. They make, in other words, they make a law that's sick. It's criminally foreign influence legalized. Not pot. That's criminally that's worse than torture, tactically employed. Worse than just identity theft / frauds employed. Worse than just complete possession of both political branches of government employed. Roles with new that. Why do you think across the board of nations, like in Russia and here, we have suburbs? They showed on CNN, I believe, one time, or Fox News. They showed a suburb in a house. Someone got shot or something in Russia. It looked like one of the houses here. We have Russians here involved on off Hartford Hospital, with some doctors intercities involved with predicate acts on my street, and with the streets around me, because of the extent of how long people associated with databases have had to hurt correlation nature's actually inherent, active, and progressive means to ourselves. So they have they also have these wire crime methods tied to a ground wire crime game through kids that is also involved with where and how. So, for example, they have all kinds of medical racketeering, and they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they forced drugs into people with courts that are involved with drugs and medicines crimes with their patients and criminals before they got caught. And they've been lying about innocent people. And even when they've been using drugs, like, for example, I believe that I heard on CNN or Fox News, there's a woman they've been drugging and she can't read because of it is good, inside a prison, who's one of the women they said was involved with the other guy they killed in the prison, probably, because they also have roles with body dumping spots and with communications regarding how they use those fake justice, in other words, criminally foreign influence justice systems, and roles with it, like on the prisons. They have little internal justice systems and reviews of that are involved with criminally foreign influence uses of identity, ground, locations, areas, and states, and regarding proper treatments of countering negative value nature progressions, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal insidiousness natures, wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself. So Connecticut has a waiting forensics location and involved with Philip Colo, I believe is the name. That is the name that Phil Colo. That is the name confessed and recorded by a Bob Chase, who is involved with other countries, a whole bunch of other countries, with psychology and with psychiatry, and with their military, and roles with databases, and roles with everything interbranch, and leading up to that, after it, they have roles with manipulations of juries originally still, criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, rules, crimes, predators, victims, but victim predators only capable of being manifest, also recorded, involved, kept intercities, per their methods that are bound by the method we have to address to be able to address the methods uses properly. Because these influences, see, this keeps every identity, the ground, location, therefore an industry, it keeps every individual group together, keeps them manifest differences of opinions, but they're still raised in collusion with logic that can't defend itself and afford defenses of ourselves from any individual or group using logic that is not going to break down. Using logic that blames slavery on a predicate acts delivery system method. That blames slavery and parts of it on criminal insidiousness itself. We understand our enemy. And we don't blame it on other things, others themselves, because we understand it was entrenched there too. There's complete possession over all locations, areas, and states. That means there are over their positive treatments and their negative treatments. Positive treatments are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments employed by a breaching method, multi-front with the negative treatments. This is what slavery is about. It's about a predicate acts delivery system method against our founding parents that did not have free speech, and we still have this abridged. It's about the methods they're pretending other outside of courts because they use the method exploiting exceptions. There are exceptions that we have to, in other words, our founders wanted us to say, you don't have to sue. In other words, if you catch courts or police justifying the logic behind such laws from the past and or now and uses of them, so then they go into motivations. Even their treatments of motivations are being and having been employed to hide their sequence shifts. NBC lied with various police forms to Wethersfield parents. They have the Wethersfield police chief, his daughter. They have people with his extended family member. This Mazzucato family, I don't know them. Jonathan Maiano and others. A whole bunch of people involved with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, with judges and their family members involved with identity thefts and frauds, uses of the shopping center on off to Town Line Drive, and uses of their roles with those people also with that and their ties to the highway as people with the 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike involved with identity thefts and frauds. Also as people, a whole bunch of ways recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with evidence racketeering and identity thefts and frauds instances and uses of them roles with the people next to the state capitol and with and next to the news media locations. So they've been offensively evidence racketeering, pretending passions and emotions about what people would they consciously. That's what's recorded. They hid this from Wethersfield parents. They took statements I said, changed them. Statements I said on Facebook, changed them, and pretended they were sent through an email, so they could lie about what was phone conversations, what was a whole bunch of calls, a different phone messages left on my phone machine, and confessions. And then when called back, see, they left that out. They changed the whole dialogue, and they're doing this behind my back with parents that are also involved when they were kids, and now further, also with doctors and nurses with federal crimes, everyone speaking through others, and with former director of the FBI, people in Washington, D.C., involved with this, and with his lawyer, and with his co-defendants like a John LeConte, his daughter, Joe DeMoro, Heather Hansen, people all along Church Street, involved with identity theft and frauds instances relevant as falsified police reports roles. Their roles with predicate acts leading up to and in cases, leading up to and in, and wrongdoing roles leading up to and in depositions. So we have to follow the predicate acts properly. Countered. And that's in relationship to the breaching method. That's in relationship to the predicate acts delivery system method. That can only be discerned by discerning what it left manifest as the laws that were criminally forward influenced. designed to maintain complete possession over the fact-keeping nature with everyone at locations. That is only going to allow a leader, no matter how powerful they get, to entertain locations, areas, and states individually grouped and together, forcing quality of fact-keeping nature, forcing quality of premises treatment nature, forcing quality of binary treatment nature, A or B, or worse, as victim predators, only capable of being, and of self-valuing it, even smiling, because that's what it is. They go, it is what it is, but they leave out what it is native pure. Can't speak for Native Americans. They don't let Native Americans have. They didn't let and don't let Native Americans have memory of their education. Everyone was forced to a whole bunch of juxtaposed natures of retreats, specifically for that. They could have just killed everybody. People wanted to do that, but that's only because they were the breaching method knew that individually grouped and together they could keep countries as identities, as locations, areas, and states, forcing leaders, no matter how powerful they get, collusion, self-value, or they hurt them too. So nobody cares about democracy. Nobody cares about the republic. What everyone can agree on, and where we'll be able to see what everyone can't agree on, is if we're going to agree on hyper infrastructure that we only can afford everywhere at once, and with conditions that if it doesn't work out, everyone, automatically, in other words, we're going to have evolution. We're going to have means to use space and to reveal space out of nowhere. But we have to do it using we have to reveal, we have to be led by how the ground is going to have an identity of relationship to itself that is also positive per its simultaneous system its actual science. And as long as we do that, even if we cause negative value nature progressions, acts in natures, because we did that, as long as we're honest about that and try to fix that too, not let go of the order of the finite. Don't let it go. It shows even, in other words, with the whole time, we're moving closer to evolution. There are things that only this could reveal. People say evolution and they attribute it to Charles Darwin's name. And they leave out the breaching method that already had employed all database relationships, all identity of the ground's sciences stewards, recorded collusion with and as qualities of fact-keeping nature, standing as identity of the ground, standing natures of criminal insidiousness nature, natures of jobs and of titles. I refer to nature. Identity is nature. Identity is a relationship to positive and negative simultaneous, and it is further relative relationship to two identities of sequence/simultaneous nature. Further, each of those five identities of sequence/simultaneous nature as temporary nature, as forever nature. They cannot be temporary nature without being a trinity. To be that integrity of volume while not being it. It can only be it by per what is simultaneous to per its system relative to itself. So when I say simultaneous, I mean that which is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, why individually grouped together, actually we are bound. This is the species body of volume that we could only move positive or negative, one way alone. This is where everyone agrees. Science, actually honest with passions and emotions, has the ability. Note with passions and emotions. People won't let people use passions and emotions because in courts they have been lying about the passions and emotions of others, and they have been delusions wrought. They recorded themselves pretending passions and emotions. They recorded themselves covering that up, not by accident. That's how they are used remotely. They are a distinct nature of victim, each branch of government, each overt criminal enterprise, each private one, each killer, people associated with the body dumping spots. That is all used remotely. All what is also used remotely is everyone blaming other things other than themselves. And it is already manifest where and how everyone already blamed other things other than themselves, and that is increasingly self-valued, per the method that made this only capable of being in such a way where only people are only capable of denying it. Because we have liars describing other people as truth tellers or liars because of their roles with their kids, their roles with their colleagues' kids, their roles with impressions they got from things told to them through investigations and investigators and news media that have been lying and telling lies, a whole bunch of lies in little articles so people don't even notice it, specifically to hide live progressions, specifically to hide what is actually recorded, where they have complete possession, not just of both political parties, but of our agencies. They have crime methods with other countries where they pretend people are making theories rather than allowing us to use real evidences. And then we say that, so they just fabricate, they take things that we did say and they change it, and they make people always use other people's names, so others for other motivations will self-value roles with that. They'll say karma. Karma is a possession, rolls with that, of fake justice, of integrity, incapable of defending itself and affording discerned. Real justice means real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. See, you guys are satisfied with fake. CT must break. It is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed, how you guys won't allow demonstrated collusion, recorded, conscious too, where they have the institution or talk about the institution instituting a committee to investigate the assault on the Capitol. That is like critical race theory, recorded being and having been employed to measure and maintain roles with positions as binary treatments that are, correlation is a trinity nature. It is that order of the finite that demonstrates there is an inherent before while as its value. And there is an active, which is that value grouped and with what is active now, and with the progressions, what is progressively to come is a value here and now too. What was the progressive value of valuing homes since before cars that were involved with that breaching method, slavery method against our founding parents since before they were born, that torture method, tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, action natures, so they could get everyone to blame other things other than themselves, while getting them to other real motivations, natures, needs, interests, narratives, theaters of industries, locations of ground uses, sequence uses, other people's names uses, identity uses, self-valued roles with self-valued fake things typed into databases, written into databases simultaneously. And to replace what's actually recorded and completely made up. Taking kids and people of each age to fake locations, attaching that to other locations with just subtle differences. So they're pretending people are making big deals about things when they know they're involved with identity thefts and frauds. If you listen to them speak, the branches of government individually grouped it together, and the overt criminal enterprises that will confess, record, and demonstrate self-value, they are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive lies, and identity thefts and frauds, roles, styles, and uses of the identity ground locations and campuses, and private database relationships, and their identities used remotely, not just by their gangs, not just by the corruption of the branches of government, but that which kept and keeps them differentially, constantly, criminally foreign influenced. Per roles with a method that uses locations and then next to them. It's a vertical and horizontal method. It is recorded discernible because of how it is recorded vertically manifest with databases relative to a Debbie Gold, who's one of the people associated with mayors, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated in backgrounds, lying about what people say, self-valuing everyone, forcing that because the courts have roles with offensive, with uses of locations, and the police firms have roles, and the political families, and all tied to them private, has roles with uses of locations that overt criminal enterprises, other countries shared here and there. They're doing the same thing. So then when they have problems on and off campus, they have to punish each other's identities. When they have problems that lead up to things like wars, we should call them hyper wars. Not just because the technology is too crazy now. I mean, the technology, the war itself, when it's criminally foreign influenced, when it's involved with the self-value, the science is abridged, Constitution abridged, because it can't defend, its members can't defend themselves individually grouped together, their logic, their premises treatments, without self-valuing that which is already preemptively put there for them. Fake things in databases. So the reason people from my town were able to do such insidious things and maintain roles with such is because of how they have roles with all these other countries here involved with them with predicate acts, here and there together. Like Russians. This is not against Russians, this is Russians against Russians, Americans against Americans, but the only ones allowed to write things in databases. They're criminally foreign influenced and delusions raw. There was a whole bunch of it's not just psychology and psychiatry. There are overt delusions and uses of them. Criminally foreign influence originally still. Integrity of honesty and logic didn't speak for and doesn't speak for it. And let alone for, but they speak anyway, and they speak about rights. That's why they speak about black and white people. They categorize us, the people formally speaking. And that is relevant to uses of instances where they have this method where they attach people to fake words and with their family members at each age. And they attach roles with it off those formal locations. And that has been so long that even the families next to those locations are having been and being maintained. Victims, self-cultivated as victims, propagated as roles, so as victim predators, everyone speaking through others. mandated law prevented. They use the crime method of pretending not to understand people. For example, lying about what was actually communicated. Lying about their perception of other people. So there are FBI and CIA involved with drugs and medicines crimes, also with medicines, drugs, of psychologists and some judges and their family members involved with untimely deaths, identity thefts and frauds, instances, roles outside of courts, as people involved in courts, speaking fake things into records with them, preventing writing simultaneously since I was a kid. These are also the people on off Town Line Drive, all along the Celestine Highway, involved with the intelligence community, foreign, involved also with all kinds of remote uses of all the black families in Wethersfield, interbranch, military, and the white power people, and or the KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, military police families, and their roles also with identity thefts and frauds. And they time it where the person can't react. If they try to react, they exploit that, make it sound like collusion with the other things. They have roles with people. I went to my grammar school, and you know, the wife of Adjuster Glavitskis, I don't know him. He's one of the ones that sought me out for confessions and demonstrations about his roles with predicate acts with some judges and overt criminal enterprises and people involved with, you know, confessions, timed confessions, like in a car that was parked. And one person sits on one side, one person sits on the other. Tim O'Brien and Andrew O'Brien are also one of the ones who did this when I was in first grade. Before Debbie Gold, that's also part of her confessions that were also in the form of demonstrations, which I didn't know what she was talking about. She came at me, and she communicated that, no, she demonstrated she was lying to other people in other classes with her father as the mayor, and with this other people in the other classes with the police forms family, Hartford police forms, and involved with Wethersfield police forms, the police chief, people involved with the buildings next to the state capitol, with an O'Brien family, with Wethersfield campuses, and with Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, names and titles, and other campuses like UConn, and the fire department campuses, involved with them with predicate acts and methods of them as victims, but as victim predators. So they want to call other people predators and say that we're calling them that. So that's why they have people aiming how they group criminal enterprises, but leaving out how originally and still they were using how all the identity of the ground locations were standing criminal insidiousness natures of positive and negative treatments, identity treatments, breaching screen patriotism natures, pretending other, valuing all means that are real patriotism natures to pretend other. That's all that really goes with war. Boxings for more. So we have to have mandated law followed. We need to have some courage with the Wethersfield parents to get on paper a response for me. And YouTube, please make sure I'm heard. They have the Facebook pages of the campuses and of the police department and of the courts, and covering lie progressions because of their roles with juxtaposed natures of child abuses and of natures of organized crime and of worse than just war crimes. And that's also with them pretending passions, emotions, being about things that are serious, like slavery. We're gonna have passions, emotions through this time. I just remind. So this is extortion that has been ongoing. Every year, intercities, Wethersfield police and people with courts, intercity Connecticut with them, interbranch Connecticut, they've been involved with predicate acts, that are also connected to their roles all along Route 3 with names involved with them, with predicate acts on and off Connecticut boxing gyms, on and off, that are roles with predicate